Rebel cleaning robot. Despicable me. Gru's house is a complete mess after a chaotic day. Gru walks in, looks around, silent. Then he points. The minions understand immediately. Cleaning time, a lazy but smart idea. The minions start cleaning for about 5 seconds. Then they collapse, pretending to be exhausted. Suddenly, one of them gets an idea. A cleaning robot. The whole group rushes into the lab. The robot is born. They assemble a robot using a vacuum cleaner, a mop system, mechanical arms, 360-degree wheels. It powers on. At first, it's perfect. Impressive performance. It vacuums everything instantly, polishes the floor to a shine, collects trash with precision. The malfunction? A small spark. Zap! The robot freezes. Then, its eye light turns red. Out of control, the robot accelerates. It sucks up the carpet, pulls down the curtains, sweeps everything in its path. One minion gets stuck in the vacuum. Another gets smacked by the mop. Chaos spreads. The robot crashes through the living room. Furniture falls, spins wildly, sprays cleaning liquid everywhere. Its arms grab random objects, throwing them around. Gru walks in and stops, trying to stop it. Dr. Nefario tries to shut it down. It doesn't work. The robot starts cleaning him too, dragging him across the floor. The minions scatter in panic. Cleaning too much. Now it tries to clean everything. Paintings are removed from the walls. Chairs are dragged away. It even tries to mop. Gru jumps back to avoid it. Final solution. Dr. Nefario grabs a freeze gun, aims, fires, zap! The robot freezes mid-motion. Gru turns to the minions. No words needed. The minions immediately mop everything again, pick up every broken piece, restore the furniture. No robot this time, only real work. Indoor snow machine. One day in the laboratory, the minions were wandering around looking for something fun to play with. On a large table sat many strange machines built by Dr. Nefario. One curious minion noticed a weird device with flashing lights and several buttons. He tilted his head and tried to read the label, but he didn't understand it. Thinking it was some kind of toy, he pressed a big red button. Suddenly, the machine began to vibrate. A moment later, it started blasting out white snow all over the room. Within minutes, the entire laboratory turned into a tiny winter wonderland. One minion jumped straight into a pile of snow and started rolling around like he was swimming. Two other minions quickly made snowballs and began throwing them at each other. Another minion secretly tossed a snowball from behind and hit his friend on the head, making him fall face first into the snow. In one corner of the room, a creative minion gathered some snow and shaped it into a giant ice cream cone, pretending to lick it like a frozen dessert. The room quickly became chaotic and full of laughter. Snow flew everywhere as the minions ran around, slipped on the floor, threw snowballs, and played wildly. Just then, the laboratory door suddenly opened. Gru and Dr. Nefario walked in. They both froze when they saw the scene. Snow covering the entire floor, machines buried under piles of snow, and a group of minions throwing snowballs everywhere. A snowball suddenly flew through the air and thump! Hit Gru on the shoulder. The room instantly went silent. Gru crossed his arms, slowly looked around at the messy laboratory, and then pointed at the piles of snow. The minions looked at each other nervously. A second later, they panicked and rushed to clean everything, scooping snow into buckets, pulling wires to turn off the machine, and wiping the floor as fast as they could.
Tower building contest. One day, the minions were wandering around the lab with nothing to do. Suddenly, one of them stacked 2 boxes on top of each other and proudly pointed at them. Another minion saw this and immediately stacked 3 boxes. Soon, more minions joined in. Just like that, a tower building contest began. The rule was simple. Whoever built the tallest tower of objects would win. The minions started grabbing everything they could find. Boxes, books, buckets, tools, even small machines, and stacking them higher and higher. One minion carefully placed items one by one, while another rushed to add objects quickly, making his tower wobble. Just then, the door opened, and Gru walked into the room. He stopped when he saw dozens of strange towers built from random objects all over the laboratory. The minions excitedly pointed upward and shouted, inviting Gru to join the contest. Gru looked around, thought for a moment, and then decided to build his own tower. He carefully stacked heavy boxes, metal containers, and lab equipment in a very stable way. His tower quickly became the tallest in the room. The minions stared in amazement. Not wanting to lose, several minions hurried to add even more objects to their towers. One added a chair, another placed a fan, and someone even balanced a bucket on top. Soon, one tower became extremely tall, nearly touching the ceiling. But suddenly, the tower began to shake. Everyone froze. The tower leaned slightly, then tipped over. Crash! When it fell, it hit another tower nearby. That tower crashed into the next one, and soon a domino effect spread across the room. Towers collapsed one after another, objects rolling and bouncing everywhere. Within seconds, a giant pile of boxes, buckets, and tools filled the center of the laboratory. One by one, the minions popped their heads out from the mountain of objects. Gru also pushed the box aside and climbed out. Everyone looked at each other and suddenly burst out laughing.
The Speed Booster Machine. Inside the laboratory of Jiru, Dr. Nefario is testing a new invention, a Speed Booster Machine. The device looks like a ray gun, connected to a control panel filled with buttons and gauges. Several curious minions gather around to watch. Dr. Nefario places a stopwatch on the table and fires the device at a small testing robot. Buzz! The robot suddenly runs many times faster, zooming around the table before stopping. The minions clap excitedly. After writing down some notes, Dr. Nefario leaves the laboratory. Immediately, Stuart grabs the speed ray. He aims it at Kevin. Easy up! Kevin instantly starts running as fast as lightning around the room. He dashes past tables, jumps over chairs, and slides around machines. But Kevin cannot stop. Kevin runs straight through the lab door. The other minions race after him. They burst out onto the street. Pedestrians jump in shock as yellow blurs rush past them. One minion runs through a fruit stand, sending apples and oranges flying into the air. Another minion zips past a street food cart, causing it to tilt sideways. Kevin runs through a banana stand, spilling bananas all over the road. Meanwhile, Gru and Dr. Nefario chase behind them. They try to clean up the mess, lifting fallen carts, picking up fruit, and helping startled vendors stand up again. The minions keep racing around the neighborhood like spinning yellow tornadoes. Finally, Dr. Nefario grabs the speed ray and adjusts the control settings. He aims at Kevin. Bzzz! This time, the beam removes the speed effect. Kevin suddenly stops. But because he was moving so fast, he slides a long distance across the street. The other minions are also hit by the ray and gradually stop. They end up lying all over the street, panting and dizzy. Gru looks around at the scene. Fruit scattered everywhere, street carts leaning sideways, and a few minions spinning in circles from dizziness. Gru crosses his arms and looks at Dr. Nefario. Dr. Nefario looks at the machine and gives an awkward smile. The two of them begin helping clean up the chaotic street.
The Ice Cream Chase. One hot afternoon in front of the house of Gru, a group of minions are lying around in the yard, trying to escape the heat. Stuart fans himself with a newspaper, while Bob hugs a melting block of ice. Suddenly, the familiar jingle of an ice cream truck rings in the distance. The minions instantly lift their heads. At the end of the street, a colorful ice cream truck drives by. The side window is open, revealing rows of bright, delicious ice cream bars. The minions' eyes light up. The truck passes by and keeps driving away. The minions freeze for 1 second, then they all sprint after it. The chase begins. Kevin leads the group as they run down the sidewalk. One minion slips on a banana peel and falls, but quickly jumps up and keeps running. Stuart jumps onto an abandoned bicycle by the street and pedals furiously. The ice cream truck turns into a crowded street. The minions weave through people. One minion leaps over a fruit stand. Another accidentally ends up with a decorative ice cream container stuck on his head. Bob jumps onto a child's scooter and rolls down a hill. The ice cream truck continues past a park. The minions race across the grass, jump over benches, and slide down a playground slide. Stuart pedals the bicycle too fast and launches straight through a sandbox. Kevin spots the ice cream truck slowing down near an intersection. The minions speed up, but the traffic light turns red and the truck drives through the crossing. The minions are forced to stop in the middle of the road. One minion accidentally crashes into a traffic pole. As soon as the light turns green, they continue the chase. They climb onto a moving delivery truck carrying cardboard boxes. From the truck, the minions jump down onto the back of the ice cream truck. The back door swings open. Inside is a freezer full of ice cream. The minions cheer with joy, grabbing ice cream, eating it, and throwing it into the air. Just then, the ice cream truck suddenly stops. The front door opens. Stepping out is Gru. He walks to the back and looks inside the truck. The minions sit in the middle of the ice cream freezer, their faces covered in colorful melted ice cream. Gru stands silently for a few seconds. A scoop of ice cream drops, splat onto his shoe. Gru sighs. Behind him, Bob accidentally knocks over a giant tub of ice cream onto the truck floor.
One morning in the yard of Gru, one minion looks at himself in the mirror, smooths his tiny hair strands, and suddenly gets an idea. He quickly places the chair in the middle of the yard and hangs up a handwritten sign. The other minions curiously line up. The first customer is Kevin. He confidently sits in the chair. Kevin's hair turns into messy, sharp spikes, sticking out in all directions. Kevin looks into the mirror, pauses in surprise, then bursts into laughter. The next customer is Stuart. The minion barber uses a hairdryer, gel, and a comb. Within minutes, Stuart ends up with a tall, tower-like hairstyle. When the wind blows, the hair wobbles like an antenna. All the minions laugh loudly. Bob is the next customer. The barber accidentally drops a bottle of hair dye. Blue, red, and yellow colors spill onto Bob's head. After wiping it off, Bob ends up with a bright rainbow hairstyle. Bob looks in the mirror and jumps happily because he loves it. News about the salon spreads. A few neighbors curiously come over to try it. The minion barber begins creating even more creative styles. One person gets spring-shaped curly hair. Another gets a star-shaped haircut. Someone else gets hair styled like a crown. The salon becomes extremely lively. Hair flies everywhere, the hair dryer blows loudly, and scissors keep snipping nonstop. Just then, Gru walks in. He looks around at the room filled with falling hair and bizarre hairstyles. The minions quickly pull Gru into the barber chair. The minion barber immediately starts cutting. A few minutes later, Gru looks into the mirror. His hair has been styled into small crown-like spikes. Gru stands still for a few seconds. The minions nervously wait for his reaction. Gru looks at himself in the mirror, then slightly smirks. The entire salon bursts into cheerful laughter.
Minions go to the gym. One day, several minions were watching TV in the living room. On the screen, a group of strong characters showed off their huge muscles, flexing their arms proudly. The minions stared with wide eyes. One minion tried to copy them. He raised his arm and flexed, but his arm was still skinny with no muscle at all. The other minions looked at him and started laughing. Soon, more minions tried flexing their arms too. They puffed out their chests and made serious faces, but none of them had any muscles. That's when one minion suddenly had an idea. They should start training and build muscles like the heroes on TV. Excited, the minions rushed into Gru's laboratory. They opened cabinets and dragged out all kinds of heavy equipment belonging to Dr. Nefario. Metal weights, machine parts, pipes, and springs. Working together, they turned these parts into funny homemade gym equipment. One minion lifted a huge metal gear like a dumbbell. Another tried to push a heavy machine like a workout sled. One minion even hung from a pipe and started doing clumsy pull-ups. But their workout quickly turned chaotic. One minion lifted a weight that was far too heavy and fell backward. Another tried to run on a makeshift treadmill, but was flung off the end. Two minions attempted to lift a barbell together, but ended up spinning in circles. The lab filled with laughter, clanging metal, and silly exercises. After a long and exhausting workout, the minions gathered in the middle of the room. They wiped sweat from their faces and proudly tried to flex their muscles. One by one, they struck dramatic poses, flexing arms, puffing their chests, and showing off imaginary muscles. The other minions clapped and cheered. Just then, through the open door, a truck full of bananas slowly drove past outside. The minions froze, their eyes widened. Without a second thought, they dropped all the weights and ran after the banana truck, shouting excitedly.
The mysterious box 1. Afternoon in the laboratory of Gru, Dr. Nefario is organizing equipment on the lab table. On a high shelf sits a small metal box covered with warning symbols. After finishing his work, Dr. Nefario leaves the laboratory. As soon as the door closes, a group of minions quietly sneaks inside. Bob notices the mysterious box on the shelf and points at it curiously. Kevin climbs onto a chair and then onto the table to bring the box down. The minions gather around it. They shake it gently. A strange rattling sound comes from inside. Stuart tries to open the lid, but the box is locked. Kevin notices a small button on the side and presses it. Click. The box suddenly pops open. A large spring jumps out, making all the minions jump back in surprise. They laugh when they realize it's just a prank box. But when they look inside again, there is another button. Bob presses it curiously. Suddenly, bubbles begin floating out of the box. Soap bubbles fill the laboratory. The minions jump around popping the bubbles and laughing. But Stuart accidentally presses a large red button. The box begins shaking violently. The minions look at each other nervously. Suddenly, the box opens again and launches a long mechanical arm. The arm swings wildly around the room, knocking over test tubes and lifting one minion into the air. The minions run everywhere in panic. The box continues releasing more surprises. Balloons pop out, a loud horn blares, and confetti shoots everywhere. The laboratory quickly turns into complete chaos. Just then, Gru walks into the room. He stops and stares at the scene. Minions running everywhere, balloons floating near the ceiling, confetti falling all over the lab. Gru looks down at the shaking box on the floor. He walks over and closes the lid. Everything immediately stops. The laboratory becomes quiet again. Behind him, the minions burst into laughter.
Banana eating contest. One afternoon in the recreation room, the minions were sitting around with nothing to do when one of them rolled in a big box full of bananas. As soon as they saw the bananas, the whole group cheered with excitement. One minion suddenly had an idea, a contest to see who could eat bananas the fastest. Within minutes, they set up a long table in the middle of the room. On the table were piles of bright yellow bananas stacked high. The minions sat in a row, all eager and ready for the contest to begin. One minion volunteered to be the referee. He raised his hand and shouted loudly, 3, 2, 1, go! Immediately, the minions began peeling and eating bananas as fast as they could. Bananas disappeared quickly, leaving only peels flying everywhere. One minion ate so fast that he almost choked, grabbing a glass of water to drink. Another minion stuffed 2 bananas into his mouth at the same time, making his cheeks puff out like balloons. At one end of the table, a minion was even stacking banana peels into a small tower while still eating more bananas. Soon, the pile of bananas on the table was almost completely gone. Then the minions started holding their stomachs. Suddenly, one minion ran toward the bathroom in a hurry. Immediately, several other minions panicked and rushed after him. The group crowded in front of the bathroom door, everyone trying to get inside first. Just then, the door opened and Gru walked into the room. Seeing the chaotic scene, Gru sighed. He stepped out for a moment and came back with a box of medicine. Gru handed each minion a pill and signaled for them to take it right away. The minions obediently swallowed the medicine. After a short while, their stomach aches slowly disappeared. Everyone sat down and sighed with relief. One minion noticed there were a few bananas left in the box. He slowly picked one up and looked around. The other minions immediately shook their heads quickly. The room stayed quiet for a moment, and then everyone burst out laughing.
Minion soccer match. One day in the laboratory, a minion found a soccer ball and began kicking it around excitedly. At first, it was just a little fun, but the ball quickly bounced everywhere, off tables, walls, and machines. Suddenly, the ball flew straight into one of Dr. Nefario's machines. The machine sparked and began making strange noises. Another kick sent the ball crashing into a pile of equipment, causing tools and parts to scatter across the floor. Just then, Gru walked into the lab and saw the chaos. The minions froze. Gru sighed, picked up the soccer ball, and walked outside to the yard. The minions followed him curiously. Instead of getting angry, Gru placed the ball on the grass and decided to organize a soccer match so the minions could play without destroying the lab. The minions quickly split into 2 teams. Some tied colored cloths around their heads to tell the teams apart. Everyone lined up, ready to play. The match began, but instead of playing properly, the minions immediately ran wildly after the ball. Whenever the ball rolled somewhere, the entire group rushed toward it at the same time. They bumped into each other, tripped, rolled on the grass, and sometimes kicked the ball in completely random directions. At one moment, 10 minions were all trying to kick the ball at once. The ball popped out from the crowd and rolled across the field. Instantly, the entire group chased after it again, like a chaotic yellow wave. Some minions accidentally kicked their teammates. Others fell over and dragged their friends down with them. The field turned into complete chaos. After a long and exhausting match, the minions were breathing heavily and lying all over the grass. Seeing that the game was impossible to control, Gru simply walked onto the field, picked up the soccer ball, and carried it away. The minions watched him go, then slowly sat down on the ground, completely tired and out of breath. A moment later, they all looked at each other and started laughing. Even though the game had no goals, no rules, and no winner, it was still the most energetic soccer match the minions had ever played.
Ice Skating Machine 1. Afternoon, the 3 girls who live with Gru, Margot, Edith, and Agnes, were playing outside. While walking around the neighborhood, Agnes suddenly spotted a pair of old ice skates lying near the sidewalk. Excited, she picked them up and ran home to show her sisters. The 3 girls looked at the skates with curiosity, but they quickly realized there was nowhere to skate since there was no ice or snow outside. When they brought the skates into the laboratory, the minions immediately gathered around to look. One curious minion picked up the skates and suddenly had an idea. If there was no ice outside, why not make ice inside the lab? The minions became very excited and quickly ran to ask Dr. Nefario for help. After hearing their idea, Dr. Nefario laughed and decided to build a machine that could turn the floor into ice. He assembled several cooling devices, connected wires, and placed the machine in the middle of the laboratory. When the machine was turned on, cold air spread across the room. Slowly, the laboratory floor began to freeze into a smooth sheet of ice. The minions cheered with excitement. One minion quickly put on the ice skates and carefully stepped onto the frozen floor. At first he wobbled a little, but soon he started sliding across the lab. Within moments, the entire laboratory turned into a chaotic indoor ice rink full of laughter. Minions were sliding everywhere, bumping into each other, falling down, and getting back up again. Suddenly, one minion slid too quickly and crashed into a group in front of him. Everyone collapsed into a big pile of icy floor. For a few seconds, they all lay still. Then the whole group burst out laughing. The 3 girls laughed along with them, while the minions lay scattered across the ice, laughing and catching their breath.
Minion color-changing machine. Inside the laboratory of Gru, Dr. Nefario has just finished building a color-changing machine. The device has a round glass chamber in the center and many flashing colored lights. A group of minions gather around, watching curiously. Dr. Nefario places a banana inside the chamber to test the machine. He presses a button. The lights flash. When the chamber opens, the banana has turned bright green. The minions stare in amazement. Satisfied, Dr. Nefario nods and leaves the laboratory to get more equipment. As soon as he leaves, the minions look at the machine excitedly. Kevin steps inside the chamber first. Stuart presses the button. The lights flash again. The door opens, and Kevin walks out with blue skin. The minions laugh even louder and begin taking turns changing colors. Green, orange, pink, and even one minion who comes out covered in rainbow colors. Soon, the entire laboratory is filled with minions of every color. But when Kevin tries pressing the button again to change back to yellow, the machine suddenly makes an error beep. The screen flickers and shuts off. The minions look at each other. They are all still stuck with their strange colors. Panic begins. One minion runs to the bathroom and grabs soap and a brush, trying to scrub the color off his body. Nothing changes. Another minion jumps into a water tub, rubbing and washing himself. The color stays the same. At that moment, Dr. Nefario returns. He looks at the scene and immediately understands what happened. He begins repairing the control panel while Gru helps reconnect wires and adjust the machine parts. After a moment, the machine starts working again. Dr. Nefario signals the minions to step into the chamber one by one. Each minion enters and comes out again, returning to their normal yellow color. The group sighs with relief.
Minions become builders. One day, a minion was driving a small construction cart near Gru's house. The road was quiet, and the minion slowly started to feel sleepy. His eyes closed for just a moment. Suddenly, crash! The cart slammed straight into the wall of Gru's house, knocking down a large section of bricks. The wall collapsed into a pile of rubble on the ground. The minion froze in shock. Just then, the door opened and Gru stepped outside. He looked at the broken wall, then slowly turned to look at the minion. The minion panicked. He quickly ran away and rushed to find the other minions. Soon, a whole group of them came back carrying tools, bricks, and buckets of cement. They were determined to fix the wall before Gru got too angry. The minions began rebuilding the wall. One stacked bricks carefully, another spread cement, and another tried to balance a tall pile of bricks. But things quickly went wrong. One minion accidentally pushed the bricks too hard, and the wall collapsed again. Another tried to stack bricks too quickly, and the whole structure leaned to one side. Goofy construction attempts continued as bricks kept falling down again and again. Soon the ground was covered with scattered bricks, and the minions were exhausted. Just then, one minion had an idea. He ran into the laboratory and returned with a strange invention made by Dr. Nefario, a special energy gun. The minion aimed the device at the pile of bricks and pressed the trigger. Zap! A bright beam of energy shot out and hit the bricks. Suddenly, the bricks started moving on their own, lifting into the air and sliding neatly into place. One by one, they automatically stacked together, perfectly aligned. Within seconds, the entire wall rebuilt itself, stronger and straighter than before. The minions stared in amazement at their work. At that moment, Gru came outside again to check the wall. He looked at the perfectly rebuilt wall, then looked at the minions. They all stood still, pretending nothing had happened.